So I'm going to make a quick little video because I just realized something about sociopaths, because I've been researching about sociopaths for a while, a little bit here and there. And it's always disturbed me because I've always suspected that my own mother was a sociopath. And I never really knew what to do about it. Like why she did what she did. And what I've realized is sociopaths and psychopaths and anti-personality disorder, all that stuff, they are sensitive yet inconsiderate. They're not insensitive. They have emotions. It's just that they don't consider why they have emotions. They don't consider other people's emotions. They don't consider the consequences. They're very short-term oriented people. They don't think about the long term. So part of their charm, but also part of their weakness. So when I watched, I think it was Ed Kemper, was one of the most interesting psychopaths, sociopaths, whatever you want to call them, serial killers that I was looking into. And he put it like this, is he said, the gun got, the demonic, evil, compulsion, whatever you want to call it, got everybody that day, or the gun went off. He describes what happens as if he were in the passenger seat and everything else was happening to him and to them. Not that he was doing something, but that something was happening to everyone. So it's weird because, the normal thing to think in that situation is, oh, well, he's just trying to get out of it. He's just trying to say that he's not responsible. It's not that. It's a showcasing that he's sensitive. He has these emotions. The emotions are bigger than he is. So then it's like, okay, well, if his emotions are bigger than he is, he's clearly not insensitive because he feels something. If he didn't feel anything, then then that would fit most people's description of sociopaths and psychopaths, but that doesn't make any sense. If they don't feel anything, they wouldn't bother doing what they do. They have feelings, obviously. They have big feelings, because otherwise they wouldn't be driven to kill. So you get, sociopaths in the office place and stuff like that, with people that, tax collectors or people that work for the IRS or something like that have no soul, that just don't give a shit, that just want their money, super high up executives and stuff like that. The office sociopath is another great example of this. Is like, how are there even those, and yet also serial killing psychopaths, and they're both sociopaths? How's that possible? Well, it's possible because sociopaths are sensitive yet inconsiderate. They don't consider other people's emotions, but they are sensitive and they have their own emotions, clearly. And you can see them when they're talking. They're very animated. They're not just a robot that just goes, I killed people because I like to kill people because that's what I'm supposed to say to you. They have animation, energy, sensitivity. Some of them are very appreciative of art and, subtle differences in art, things like that. They are sensitive, but they're not considerate. They don't consider other people's emotions. They don't consider the long-term consequences. They don't consider life to be worth living, etc. They don't consider things. If they do have an opinion about something, it's like horrifyingly banal. There's a horrifying banality to them, where they'll describe murdering someone in the most simplistic way, that they completely lack any ability to transmit or describe subjective phenomena, but they're aware of it. They just can't describe it because they lack the mental ability to consider, to take that feeling and put it into a symbol. They have the feeling. They just can't put it into a symbol. And so because they can't represent it and think about it, then they can't think about other people. And if they're mistreated or neglected, and usually they are, which is what turns them into a sociopath, is they develop a lack of faith that other people have them because they've never seen that. They get beaten up, they get lied to, they get raped, they get neglected, just left out in the middle of nowhere, or with some old grandma that doesn't take care of them or something like that. And they end up being a sociopath because nobody ever really looked them in the eye and really dealt with them, like an actual human being. They just, whatever, just got dismissed. And so then they lose that faith in other people. If they don't have anything bolstering it, why would they? It's not like they can just sustain a faith in other people for their entire life, like, everything was just fine and dandy at home if it wasn't. So the reason that I think most, if not all, people, including the sociopaths themselves, get their motivation twisted around and just stupefyingly retarded is because they forget that they have sensitivity. It's easier to paint them as a robot, but then robots don't kill people because they wouldn't. Why would they bother killing everyone? But, that's how people mostly think about them, is that they're just robots. And the reason that is an issue is because if you treat them like a robot, they'll just game that. And then, they'll never get cured. I think there is a cure for sociopathy, which is you can not exploit, but you can utilize or aim at their sensitivity, which they do have, and then use that sensitivity to build consideration. And then they'll have both, like the rest of the healthy population has, that they have, most people have a considerate nature where they consider the long-term consequences. They make their decisions based off of that. They're not impulsive. They think it through. They consider the outcomes. They consider the consequences. And they consider each other, and they consider their families, and they consider all those things. So they build that consideration at such a young age that they forget that they ever did. There was a time when they didn't have that consideration. There was a time when they, like children, are inconsiderate, but they're sensitive. They have emotions, but they don't have the ability to speak about them very articulately. And they don't have enough experience to realize that other people are people. They treat other people as if their role ends, their personhood ends where their utility for that person ends. Children and sociopaths have the same exact problems. And sociopaths are children who never grew up.